The leak from that. I just thought, oh, that's so cool. There's literally glue out in the jungle or wherever he was.
Pretty sure I currently don't know anyone else who knows Bush Tucker Man, mate.
Oh, Bush Tucker Man. I remember the Bush Tucker Man. I found it. He used to eat Wichity grubs all the time, didn't he?
Oh, he was. He's actually not the original. The original's a fella called Malcolm Douglas. He was the king.
Okay, because I heard that Bush Tucker Man, he was like commissioned by the Australian Army to say, we need somebody who can tell us what's poisonous and what's safe to eat. In this,
yeah, he trained army on bushcraft and that, but Malcolm Douglas is earlier than him. He's like making movies in the 70s, so I seen it when I was a wee tacker and that.
Ah, yeah.
He did one called Across the Top in like 1970. He was originally shooting crops and then he became preservationist for crops or something.
Yeah, because I remember the 80s TV guy who did about... Was he like a 15-minute program or something like that?
I think if you look up Malcolm Douglas, there's some like clips of like his later years. He died in a car accident about 10 years ago. But there's ones where he's like making like damper and bread you leave overnight. It's like, hey, just leave it overnight. It's like, who the fuck's leaving bread to rise overnight when you're camping, for fuck's sake?
Oh, apparently it was a guy called Les Hiddins did the 80s version.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's Bush Tucker Man.
Yeah.
Wait, we live?
Yeah, we're live now, but for some reason we're still doing the pre-show. Oh, Ian, when your bird comes around your house, do you say welcome to Fort Ian?
I do, yeah. I always say that.
When you're engaged in, not to be too vulgar, an act of Congress, you see things are about to get spooky.
Yeah.
No, I've never said that, no. But,
have you ever asked her where she wants the ectoplasm, Ian?
Time.
Oh, you should try it. It gets their clunge well wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I know.
And draw on the ectoplasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Ghostly activities happening here.
Yes.
That just reminds me of South Park. Spooky ghost.
Oh, it was a ghost. Spooky ghost.
A strange presence in the room.
Indeed.
Anyway, are we going to talk about some whale penises now?
You may feel the Holy Spirit come upon you. Sorry.
Are we going to talk about whale penises now, Ian?
Yeah, so should we kick off? We've got quite a lot to get through tonight, so should we kick off with
Let's go for
the
it.
Loch Morar monster, yeah?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, let's kick off then. Yeah, let's start. So, all right then. So Scotland is the most mysterious place in the UK. Numerous ghosts, phantom black dogs, Bigfoots, knife crime, and the Wicker Man. Most Scottish
Are they Bigfoots or big feet?
There is a Bigfoot in Scotland. Big feet, Bigfoot.
No, what's the plural? No, in the plural. Isn't the plural big feet?
Bigfoot's big feet. You say potatoes. Who says potato? I've never heard anyone say potatoes. But
only if they're doing that song.
Someone does say it. But yeah, all right then. So anyway, most Scottish lakes has its mysterious lake demon or kelpie. The most famous of which is the Loch Ness Monster, which we're all familiar with. But tonight we're going to look at one of the lesser-known lake monsters of Scotland. We're going to head west and investigate. We're going to investigate.
Ian,
Loch.
What's the collective noun for a group of big feet? Is it a stampede of Bigfoot or a trample?
sport.
An imagination of Bigfoots.
An imagination of Bigfoots. Okay, yeah.
Bullshit of Bigfoots.
A bullshit
Is it-
Bigfoots. Yes.
Is it an athletes? An athletes of Bigfoots? Are they an athletes of Bigfoots?
Bunch of cunts, basically. But anyway, okay, so tonight we're going to investigate the Loch Morar monster, nicknamed Morag. Lend us a pound for Miss Sporran. So let's have a look then. So let's go to the first illustration. We can see there. That's
I think
it's not a
isn't
photo.
poond isn't that
It's a
Newcastle?
unit of
That sounds like Newcastle vernacular.
It's a
You
unit
lend
of
it,
currency up
if
north.
you lend it to a Scottish person, you won't get it back. So just be careful. So anyway, we got the picture there. That's not actually an actual photo. That's a drawing there. But that's Morag there. That's what Morag.
That looks like a whale penis with some ectoplasm dripping off it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's some
spooky!
Spooky.
Pre-cum coming from the end of the bit there. So anyway, so we'll kick off to start with. Let's run through a bit of background of Scotland's second most mysterious loch, so the people at home can get a bit of a feel for the place. So, Loch Morar is situated about 86 miles to the west of Loch Ness in the Highlands of Scotland. Bootsmon. The loch is 11.7 miles long, with a surface area of 10.3 square kilometres, which is considerably less than Loch Ness. It's deeper than Loch Ness, with a maximum depth of 310 metres, making it the deepest lake in the British Isles. Due to its remote location, it doesn't have many residents and doesn't attract many tourists. Even so, over the years, reports of a mystery beast lurking in the depths of the loch have emerged, similar to the reports of the more famous monster in Loch Ness.
Oh, Off-Licence wants to know, is that monster crying in that picture?
Yeah. No, that's pre-cum, that is. So, yeah, so just dripping out there, just really lubricating. So anyway, see you, Jimmy. So...
It looks like that whale's got hyperspadias, by the way.
Yeah.
It's got an off-center eye.
Yeah. So anyway, so what we'll do, we'll kick off, and what we'll do then, let's have a look then at go to the next picture there, Hemi, and we'll just have a look at the home of Morag, just get an idea of.
Oh, that looks nice, doesn't it?
We're looking at.
You think that was Barbados or something? Water's nice and clear, not like Loch Ness.
Exactly. Not Loch Ness is a fucking shithole, but Loch Morar is much nicer. An idyllic place of unspoiled natural beauty, good for bird watching, fishing, a good place to take a girl if you want to get off with this. So you can do that.
Get a stinky finger.
Exactly. You know, a bird actually shat on my car last night. So,
I'd finish with her. I'd finish with her.
I'm not taking her out again anyway. Doing that.
So you reckon if you took a bird up to that loch, then you'd hear some mysterious moaning, would you?
Yeah. You could penetrate her there. That would happen. Anyway, so getting a feel for the place, getting a feel of the sort of remote location where it is. Go to the next picture there, Hemi, if you could. Picture number 4, I know, and we'll have a look at the map so we can just get a bit of an idea of where it is in relation to Loch Ness. We can see Loch Ness there to the right of the picture, and Loch Morar to the west on the coast
I
there.
always thought loch is just like the silly Scottish word for lake, and there'd be these big round, but they look more like just kind of drowned valleys, really, aren't they?
It is, yeah, and it is really a lake, but with Scotland has to be a bit different, doesn't it?
Well, no, I think lochs are like lakes that are closer together, are they not?
Yeah.
Certain patterns.
Yeah, maybe they are, but
there's a reason
maybe
why
they are, but who?
Maybe you have to get to a certain width to be a lake.
Yeah.
If you haven't got a certain width, you're a loch.
Has anyone tried a deep fried Mars bar? It's the national dish of Scotland.
I've had a battered Snickers bar because
I've had deep fried cream egg.
Really, I've had a deep. I was in Edinburgh and I had a deep fried Mars bar. It's actually it wasn't actually too bad, I thought. So
Well, that's why. I mean, I prefer Snickers to Mars. So I said, "Can I have a battered Snickers bar?" And they said yes. And I was like, "Oh, it's gorgeous." But it's one of those things like, if I eat this more than once a year, I'm going to end up very fat.
I had a fanny battered Snickers bar, so that was.
You should have had haggis, mate. That's what's delicious.
Yeah.
Haggis.
I mean, I like black pudding, but I think I'll pass on haggis.
Fucking try it, come.
No, I had a black pudding. Yeah, I sampled black pudding, man of the world. But anyway, let's move on. So anyway, there we can see then Loch Ness. There you get an idea. People can see, Loch Ness there, Loch Morar, pretty close. So basically, if Nessie and Morar wanted to meet up for a pint, they wouldn't have too far to travel there. So what we can do, what would that look like, though? Let's look at the next picture there, Hemmy. Let's go to the next picture.
What have we got here?
Morar and Nessie hanging out together. Let's have a look there, and we'll see what that looks like. There we go. Look at that, eh? Two monsters side by side.
Was Morag in Family Ness?
No, Morag was in Take the High Road. I don't know if you lads remember that one.
I didn't watch either of those programs, but I can. But yeah, probably was. But yeah, there they are. They're having the right laugh, or maybe they've got. Looks like they got the ump with each other there, eh?
Yay!
So what?
Do you reckon one's going to the? Is do you reckon one's saying to the? Oh look, that guy's got his camera. Got his camera out. Quick, put your head down.
What is the Loch Ness Monster's favourite Black Eyed Peas song?
Ooga Booga gives me that watermelon for free.
Yeah, I got a feeling. Innit?
But
yeah. Yeah, they're a shit band, but I'd throw one up Fergie though. I'd give her one. And when I see Fergie, I mean Fergie the singer, and not Fergie the Manchester United manager, or Fergie the Duchess of York, who's a fucking pig. So just to let you know that.
Does she eat a lot? Does she eat a lot there?
Fergie the singer or the Duchess of York?
Yeah, the Duchess of Pork.
I don't know. She's no oil painting though, is she? And anyway,
saying she's watercolor.
Yeah, but Fergie, Fergie the singer is a lesbian though apparently. So that's fine by me. Yeah, no, that's fine by me. I got no problem. I got no problem with that. Just don't rub them up the wrong way.
Oh, I found out.
I've got to do a quick Pornhub search.
Yeah.
Whilst you're on about that, I found out recently that the reason domestic abuse is so domestic violence is so high amongst lesbians is because they're in a sexless relationship, so they just end up like hammering at one another.
Yeah.
It's also because they've all got like they're constantly making sandwiches and they've got no man to make them for, so they're just surrounded by all these sandwiches.
Is lesbianism like the female version of incel?
Yeah, could be.
Oh, that cracks the code.
Staying on that though, I've forgotten how to spell clitoris. I've been racking my brain, but it was on the tip of my tongue last night. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I used to have an American girlfriend. She was very strict. She would say no, we're not going to have sex tonight, period. And I'd be like, yeah, right, that's fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. So, yeah.
Do you remember that Mickey Flanagan one where he's in the car with his American girlfriend and he's going she invites him in for a cup of tea. So what you want me to come in your ass?
I think no, but come on, gynecologists, they do a great job, don't they? So thumbs up to them. So
you know the difference between a gynecologist and a genealogist, don't you, Ian?
No, what is it? Tell me.
One looks at your family tree, the other one looks at your family bush.
Yeah, my friend had a vasectomy, but he doesn't give a toss. But anyway, all right, okay, all right, we've had that fun. So come on, back to the subject. Come on. All right, so so back to the monster. So what we'll do now then, we'll look at some early reports of Morag from the pre-monster boom of the 20th century, prior to when the film King Kong came out and put ideas into people's heads. So let's have a look then. Yeah. So references to the legend of Morag can be found in Scottish folklore, where the monster's appearance is seen as a bad omen of upcoming death and disaster. An interesting quote was uncovered in a Victorian book of Scottish folk tales published in the 1800s, and it reads as follows. Morag, harbinger of death, giant swimmer in the deep green Morar, loch that has no bottom. Here it is, the monster lives. So folklore
basically 80s heavy metal band lyrics.
Well, it's interesting, though folklore is generally full of bullshit and wank. It's interesting that the aforementioned monster is seen and believed by some in the modern day. So that's like, interesting that that's something is being reported from the Loch. What about the bagpipes, though? They sound fucking awful, yeah? Anyone likes that shit? Yeah.
Turkish invention. Yeah. Well, say they come from Turkey. It wasn't Turkey back then, but
all right. So, well, they can go back to Turkey. Anyway, all right then. So, other texts of this period describe Morag as the infamous water kelpie, the horse-headed demon that drags its victims to their watery grave, whilst other accounts describe Morag as a mermaid-like creature with long, lustrous, cascading hair.
Well, because the kelpie the kelpie, you think it runs around, it pretends to be a horse, doesn't it? Then you jump on its back and then you get stuck to it and it drags you down to your death.
It's the name of someone's horse in the Witcher books.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. No, it's it is often associated with Scottish lochs, and though it doesn't look like the plesiosaur creature that is reported in the modern day, it's just one of them things. What interesting to see an unknown creature has been reported from centuries gone by. The Morag is also described as the skull-faced Grim Reaper. These reports are too old to be taken seriously, and the lines between fact and fiction are blurred. Yeah. Hobbit?
Nope, got nothing. I was going to say something like Morag, not to be confused with the other Scottish celebrity, Ballbag.
Yeah, Ballbag, that one we all know. Ballbag, yeah. Or the Crankies, of course. Eh?
Yeah. Well, Jimmy Cranky, the Scottish Prime Minister.
Yeah. They used to go to swingers parties, apparently. But,
who? Jimmy Cranky? Oh, the Crankies did, didn't they? Yeah.
Because it wasn't really a school. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it wasn't really a schoolboy. It was a woman. It was actually
a mentally ill woman.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, they used to have orgies and whatever. Anyway, all right then. So, an interesting.
Do you think it started from a sexual fetish? You used to get to dress up as in a school uniform. And you said, no, not that one. I meant a girls' school uniform.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be the first time, would it? So. Anyway, an interesting book published in 1937 called Afoot in Wild Places by a guy called Seton Gordon tells tales of yesteryear in the Highlands. He said he had talked to the old people of Morar. They told him that 50 or 60 years earlier they would see a boat without sails towing one or two other boats on the loch at dusk. Some of them thought that they were seeing the motorboats of the future. Stupid fuckers. Others said it was the beast of Loch Morar playing on the surface. So again,
or it could have been a rowboat. One of the two,
Well, some people said it was the beast. So obviously there was people knew of some kind of beast in the loch. But anyway,
they knew about tourism even back in those days, didn't they? They knew about tourism even back then, didn't they?
No, but there could be something in this, though. There could be an unknown creature. Maybe, We don't know. Giant otter? Something. Another report from the olden days was recalled in 1971 by Lexi McLennan, an old lady in her 80s who lived by the loch. She recalled as a child she and her mother saw Morar. She said it resembled an upturned boat, and as they watched, another popped up beside it.
Is that how you tell a monster it's ugly? You tell it looks like an upturned boat? Is that like the monster version of a back end of a bus?
Yeah, sort of, but obviously it could be. If you look at the monster there we're looking at, the upturned boat is the back of the monster. Underneath you've got the flippers, the tail, head and neck. So, you've got to use your imagination a bit. So, in 1931, a Scottish Privy Councillor by the name of Lord John Hope didn't see the monster, but he had an unusual experience during a fishing trip to Loch Morar. He said the following. In September 1931, myself and my friend, Berkeley Sheffield, and my brother took a local skippered boat out onto the loch in the hope of catching some trout. We cast our lines into the deepest part of the loch. I was fishing with a fairly long trout rod and was using a metal spinner as bait. Suddenly, something took the line, which was heavier than anything I'd ever experienced before or since. The line was taken directly downward at such a pace that it would have been madness to try and stop it with my fingers. In a few seconds, the whole line had gone, and the end of my rod snapped. Whatever the animal was, its enormous weight had prevented me from being able to lift up the rod at all. The three of us started to piss ourselves laughing at what had just happened. The skipper of the boat didn't join us in our jest, though. He looked very serious and was shitting himself. He mumbled something and said we'd better go back, and we headed back to shore.
Scottish is just a dour, miserable bunch.
That was in 1931, so...
Oh, I think I went for a swim that day.
Yeah. Right.
Whoops.
Anyway, so, peculiar, eh? We all know that we all know what kind of fish are there, and could a standard trout do that? No, doubt it. So
could be a really big pike.
More mysterious is in the loch. On the 27th of March 1934, Loch Morar resident Charlie MacDonald was out on the loch in a small rowing boat when he saw a long neck and small head rise about 8 feet out of the water, 50 yards in front of him. He likened it to a huge eel. The neck was about 1 foot in diameter.
Was it a whale on its back?
Black in colour. Could have been a whale on its back, but there's no whales in Loch Morar, so the beast was in view for about a minute before it submerged. So there we've got some early reports from Loch Morar.
So when are we getting reports from Loch Ness then, Ian? What sort of years are we getting reports?
Well, they're the sort of 30s, and if you look at the film King Kong, when did that come out? I think that was 1930, early 1930s. King Kong. That was when people started to see prehistoric monsters. That film gave us the imagery of sort of the plesiosaur, that kind of thing, put ideas into people's heads. Though we see the film now and these special effects are shit, at the time, they were cutting edge, stop motion photography. It was like, it blew people's minds, basically. So, but yeah, we got some early reports there. So there's, definitely some kind of presence in the loch. People were seeing something. But what was it? Let's go over to the Dom and have a look at some more contemporary reports. And let's see if we can untangle the mystery of Loch Morar.
Okay. About 7 p.m. on the 30th of July 1948, John Gillies was taking his boat full of tourists on a trip to the loch. He had been operating these tours for 25 years. One of the tourists, Frank Fleet of Liverpool, spotted a movement in the water about a quarter of a mile away. John Gillies then came out of the boat's engine room and looked at the disturbance through binoculars. The disturbance seemed to have been caught by a creature of about 25 feet long with 5 distinct humps. The sighting had multiple witnesses. They said the humps did not appear to be undulating as you would expect from a serpent-type creature, but were static. No one saw a head or a tail, and the creature moved slowly, about 4 miles per hour, leaving a slight wash behind it. It remained in sight for several minutes.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost...
What could this be?
Inanimate objects floating.
Could be a log.
Yeah.
I mean, could it be people caught up in the Loch Ness hysteria?
It could well be, actually.
It may have had an influence, but it could be.
That's why I was asking about dates. Do the old dates for Loch Morar do they correspond to Loch Ness dates? Do they?
So I guess the later you go, the less likely the things are likely to be authentic, basically.
Loch Ness kicked off in the early 30s. That's when it really got popular. So 1948. So yeah, people would be aware of that, but it's still, it still doesn't mean there's not a monster there. So
John Kelly says in chat, he says, last century they had a Loch Ness monster. This century we've got thousands of cockless monsters.
Quite true.
How was the Morag Mafia back then? I mean, it could have just been people in body bags, right?
I mean, could it be? I mean, have all the Lochs got their own story, or there's only a couple of Lochs have their own story, or I'm just trying to work out whether it's like a hysteria that spread throughout Scotland, or whether it's just
a lot of them. Most Scottish Lochs have got some kind of legend, but Loch Ness and Loch Morar have got a lot more, and also theirs have come into the modern age. A lot of Irish lakes have got monsters as well, and also a lot of American lakes, and we can look at those in future shows as well. But it is there are lake monsters around the world which are seen, even photographed and filmed in the modern age that we can look at. It's not just Loch Ness and Loch Morar, but I think Loch Ness and Loch Morar are the most active on the lake monster front. Yeah.
Apparently, Lake Michigan has got a monster, which is the governor of Flint, Michigan. You heard about that?
I know he does. Probably all the lead they're fucking chugging down in their water, innit?
Yeah.
Flying my beer. Yeah. Carry on, Dom.
Yeah, okay, so in the 50s, Mrs. Julie Parks gave the following account of her experience with Morag. When I was about 10 years of age, I was playing at the front of our house, which is on the shore of Loch Morar. I glanced out at the loch when I saw what appeared to be an upturned boat coming along the loch, quite near the shore. I watched it for a little while, and then I called my mother out. She stood with me and watched it travel westwards until it vanished out of sight. We thought it might be an old boat and mentioned it to my father later that evening. He brought to our attention the fact that the slight wind that day prevailed from the west, expelling the boat theory. It must have been something more mysterious.
Strange.
Because the weird thing about this is none of the Loch Ness reports describe it as being like an upturned boat. Where all of these are describing it as an upturned boat, which is odd.
No, a lot of them do actually. A lot of the Loch Ness sightings do describe it as an upturned boat. There are also multi-humped and long neck and head plesiosaur type sightings, but no, it is common for the Loch Ness description to be an upturned boat, and similar here.
Also, Mrs. Parks's brother, Duncan McDonnell, also had a sighting some years later. His sighting is classed as the best Morag encounter, and we'll cover that later on. So, in September 1958, Dr. George Cooper was on holiday with his family at Loch Morar. Cooper was a distinguished scientist, author, painter, and photographer. And one morning of the vacation, Cooper spent about 2 hours sketching the loch. During this time, he saw what we thought was a submerged log drifting slowly westwards. The object was about 50 yards from the witness and swam in what is described as an S course. Then all of a sudden, the object disappeared. Cooper said 1 minute the thing was there, the next instant it was not. Cooper's daughter, Susan, was also present, and she saw it go down in a swirl of water. She said, trying to rationalise the sinking at the time, I suggested that it was probably due to the log being waterlogged, and it was just floating above the surface, a sort of long curve, slightly higher in the centre. I more or less convinced both of us that this was the reason. As Cooper was making sketches of the loch at the time, he included the object in one of his landscapes, so we can see it in the next picture.
Let's have a look at Cooper's sketch. Should be good.
Yeah, that's
Go to the next
inclusive.
picture there, Hemmy. Let's see what we got.
It's
Picture number 6. And there it is. A floating turd on the surface.
A turd floating in the lake.
But it is interesting, isn't it? So there we go.
Could be a freshwater crocodile, maybe.
It does look like a crocodile, doesn't it?
Floater. There, go on now.
So, upon hearing about the monster investigations taking place at the loch in later years, Susan rethought her sinking log theory and was open to other more mysterious explanations. So, yeah, basically she was influenced by all the other stories. And thought,
now she can get a bit of notoriety out of it. She's going to throw her hat into that particular ring, isn't she?
Yeah, so Dr. Cooper said that the object was grey in colour, was 8 to 12 feet long, 9 inches high in the middle, and its shape was like a flat ellipse. He thought the shape may have changed during its slow progress, having at one stage being higher at one end. The texture was like the rough or semi-rough surface of a tree trunk, and definitely not shiny.
Fuck, someone's got my docs.
What? What, mate?
Oh. Yeah, go on.
He's gone.
Sorry, go.
Yeah, go on.
You would have thought a doctor would be the best witness you could have, an educated man of science, a pillar of the community, someone who uses logic, and you would believe what they said.
Wait, like somebody, like an upstanding pillar of the community, like someone like, say, Harold Shipman.
Yeah, him and another person that Dom will come on to now as well.
Yeah, or the person that
someone's found
the best piece of evidence for the Loch Ness monster, the classic black and white head and neck photo, and this was recently uncovered as a hoax. And it was always been referred to as the surgeon's photo because it was taken by a doctor. So yeah, and
you can always trust the doctor.
That's a big shame, isn't it? That the picture that we all know was taken by a doctor. We've always looked at it in the textbooks, and it turns out it was just a hoax. So yeah.
So was he a GP? I mean,
he was a gynecologist. He was actually a gynecologist.
Was he a GP in the Hyde area?
He was a gynecologist, so thumbs up to him. Yeah. So
yeah.
Second time I've used that one. So yeah.
Over to you then.
Yeah, the mystery is picking up momentum then after Dr. Cooper's sketch that we can see there. So we'll move on then. We'll move on to a little later in the century. So into the 60s. So let's have a look at some of the more recent sightings. So in July 1963, local headmaster Adam McCollum and his wife were taking a holiday at a cottage on a hillside overlooking Loch Morar. At about 11:15 a.m. one morning, Malcolm sat in the living room flicking through a porno mag that he had found under a hedge. This was before the days of the internet, so you would have to use this kind of literature. As he got to the reader's wives section, he looked up and glanced across the loch. He put down the jazz mag and said the following. Out in the middle of the bay, I could see an object that looked like an upturned boat, but I was sure it was not that. Yeah.
Hey, what if it's a monster hiding under an upturned boat?
Oh God, this is like some philosophy shit. Well, I don't see the cow behind the rock. Does the cow actually exist?
Yeah.
Well,
Philosophy. I was going to say Scooby Doo.
It's
I've been under an upturned canoe, and it's quite a good laugh. You can
Yeah, but
breathe
we
and walk
really
around.
we really underneath the canoe. We couldn't see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scooby Doo as well is worth having a look at Scooby Doo because you can learn from Scooby Doo. I did so.
So what really should have happened?
Anyway.
Someone should have whipped the upturned boat off, and they're going, "I knew it was you. It was the Loch Ness monster all along."
I'll find the janitor under the upturned boat.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay then.
Damn
So
kid.
anyway, so he was reading a porno. And anyway, he saw that object. He said, "Okay." So McCollum continued. At this point, my wife joined me. She saw the object, and we discussed what it might be. Too big to be a fish? The wrong colour. Too still to be a number of fish, and no splashing. Wrong shape to be a boat. Could it be a log? I then got some binoculars for a better look. At this point, a local resident came and asked me if we had seen the same thing as he had. Whilst trying to focus, I found the object had disappeared, leaving no trace on the surface. As far as I could estimate, it had not changed position during the period I was watching, and it had not moved or altered shape. At the time, I had not heard anything of a monster or abnormal creature in the loch. Upon our return to the house,
if it didn't move or
my
change
wife's-
shape, if it didn't move or change shape, it was probably a upturned boat then, wasn't it?
Well, it did disappear though, so it was there
right,
one minute, gone the next. So, you know. But anyway, upon our return to the house, my wife saw the copy of Razzle I was looking at. I said it wasn't mine, but she didn't believe me. I was in the doghouse for the rest of the week. So there's a game. Mysterious things going on at Loch Morar. Given additional details, Mr. McCollum said the object was about as long as a 14-foot dinghy and greeny brown in colour. So, yeah. Keeps
They
happening.
keep getting bigger and bigger, don't they? It's weird.
Well-
Have you noticed? They've all started to get bigger and bigger, these accounts. Like,
Yep.
And also, I find it a bit weird how they're always able to kind of specify it was this many feet long. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose they're being. I suppose they're being pressed into coming up with a length, though, aren't they?
I suppose if you're a country person, you know, country people, they're familiar with the size of things. You know, rural people. They do inbreed with each other and marry their sister and things like that. But in terms of actual measurements and estimations, they are good at that. Anyway, let's move on. In May 1964, Mr. and Mrs. Alec Patmore had been standing on the north shore of Loch Morar with their two children. It was about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and the loch surface was flat calm and there was no wind. About 200 yards from the shore, they saw a movement on the loch. It was a large object moving eastwards at about 20 miles per hour. The object had 3 humps and was dirty grey in colour. There was also a rolling wash caused by the object. Patmore said, "It looked like the wave of a small boat at speed, but the movement of the water was like a large vessel, like a midget submarine just breaking the surface, i.e. a deal of displacement. We judged the length of the hubs above the water as 10 feet each, and their height about 4 feet or 5 feet high. The sighting lasted for about a minute when the hubs appeared to submerge." Patmore continued, "Both my wife and I are convinced we saw a thing moving through the water, but have no idea of its real identity." So, mystery there. What could it be?
What?
Let's move on.
What are they saying? It's like 30 foot long this time now.
Well, that one, yeah, it could be. It's 30 foot's about right, isn't it? Yeah, about 30 foot.
Jesus.
But if there's a number of creatures, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. It could be a family. Like, have you not seen the family?
With 4 foot lumps as like deviation between the 10 feet in between them.
Exactly. We're not seeing the family Ness. They're all different sizes. You've got the mother and the father and the baby. So, you can use these things as guidance. Okay, so in August 1964, William Fotheringham and Alexander Easton were standing on the north shore of Loch Morar when they encountered Morag. Fotheringham said, about 200 yards from the shore, we saw a huge hump on the surface, between 3 and 4 feet out of the water and about 5 or 6 feet below. Colour black and shining, how a fish looks when held in the sun. This lump looked the same as if had some sort of scum on it. I could not estimate how fast the hump was moving, but it was very fast. The reason I know this is because of the heavy black wash. Because of this wash, there must have been more of the object under the water. It was a lovely summer's day with heavy mist over the water, and the loch was very calm, and this is why we saw it so plain. Both men watched the object move around, submerging into deep water. It was around 3 p.m, so, they're seeing back of an object. Not really the head and neck sightings. All right, there are the odd head and neck sightings coming, but on the whole, a submerged object with a back breaking the surface. Be with me. Anyway, so yeah, there definitely does seem to be something in the loch.
Have you got Emu in the room with you? You two fighting over the mic? Is that what's going on there? It sounds like you and Emu are fighting over the mic, Ian.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh no, there's no Emu here. Where's yeah. So anyway, okay. So from 1962 to 1969, Captain J.S. Metcalf and his wife Dora lived in a house called Swordlands Lodge on the banks of Loch Morar. Let's have a look at this property then. If you could, Hemi, let's go to the next picture, number 7.
Picture, let's have a look.
Lodge.
This one. That looks nice,
of Morar. Let the people at home see. And there
Is there actually no road leading to that place? How the fuck do you get to it? Is that a little track thing? No, is that how you drive up to the house, is it?
There's probably a road or something behind it under the foliage, but it looks like quite a good property. You have a good party there, and it overlooks the lodge. So, yeah, quite a nice place. So, Captain Metcalf was a distinguished sailor, and his wife was a mathematics graduate from London University. She built up a computer business, which was later taken over by International Computers Limited. So they made a few quid. And if you look at the property there, so it's a fair size. I would think that would you'd have to have a few quid to buy that. There. And
I don't know, because of where they are. They go for a bit cheaper sometimes, don't they?
I would think so, but it could be. It's good to get away from.
Because that castle on the island went for next to nothing, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was about 200 grand or something, 250, weren't it? Something like that. I think we took.
I mean, one of those is probably equivalent in price to a cardboard box on the streets of London.
Yeah.
At least in a place like that, you're away from all the fucking idiots and arseholes that live. So I would. So it's got that as well. But good place to retire to. But anyway,
it'd be a good place for a group of teenagers to have a wild party.
Yeah, a group of stoners.
Murder them to death one by one with an axe.
Yeah.
See, I came back at the right time then.
We're just discussing the house in the picture.
Maybe the monster could go on the rampage there, but yeah, so...
You have to climb the hill first.
Or a good place for Alistair Crowley to buy, like he bought the property in Loch Ness, wasn't it? A similar type.
Aren't there rumours that Nessie's walked before, hasn't there? Didn't someone catch Nessie on a road or something?
Yeah, there is actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But you'll never see a Nessie in the zoo.
Nessie has been on land a few times. Yeah. Anyway, okay then. So So there we go. They've got the idea there of where the Metcalfs lives. I'm sure the property is still standing, maybe a hotel or something these days, something like that. But anyway, so in 1962 they retired and went to live at Loch Morar. The couple would spend much time fishing the loch for salmon, and Mrs. Metcalf had a bird table at the front of the house where she encouraged wild birds to come and feed, often sitting or standing for long periods so that the birds would come close. So if you look at the front of the property there, the bird table was probably there. Mrs. Metcalf had a bird table and also a good view of the loch. It was during one of her bird feeding sessions that she first saw what would become such a familiar sight that in the end they hardly bothered to watch. Captain Metcalf described one of their initial encounters with Morar as follows. We did not believe there was anything large in the loch until about 1966. So when on a rather windy morning we saw 3 patches of light-coloured water moving across the bay from east to west against the wind. We got binoculars and examined the patches. Nothing broke the surface, and we concluded that they were caused by a pair of very large otters followed by their young. From then onwards, the light-coloured patches frequently appeared. They always came into sight close to the point on the east side of the bay and moved slowly across the edge of the deep water, a depth of about 30 feet. It would then pause for a few minutes as if feeding and move out of sight. The patches were oval in shape. The first or leading patch was about 12 feet long by 6 feet across. The second patch was about 7 feet, and the third patch was about 4 feet long and about 3 feet wide. The distance between the patches was about 9 feet, and this distance never varied. So that sort of expels the otter theory. If it was a series of otters, they'd be moving around, but this was static. The humps or the patches of
implying it's all one thing.
Yeah, implying that it's all one big monster, and it must have been. So Metcalf continued. On the first few sightings, we would call each other and examine the patches through binoculars. But as time went by, we would just call, "Oh, there's the monster again," and would not bother any further. It never broke the surface, so there was nothing more to see. It always followed the same track at approximate speed of 2 to 3 knots. So yeah, look at that then. You know, you're seeing a mystery animal, and you see it so often that you just can't be arsed to watch anymore. Like, you know, if you've got Bigfoot coming into your back garden, you look out the window and you see it so often, you think, "Oh, there's Bigfoot. Fuck it, though. I can't be bothered to look."
Not Bigfoot again.
Like
imagine that. Yeah, imagine that. Eh?
Yeah.
So, So anyway, Loch Morar researcher Elizabeth Montgomery Campbell managed to interview Captain Metcalf.
He's got a lot of names.
So, so, you know, obviously this is one of the best witnesses. So, interviewed.
Because she's posh.
So what we're going to do now, we're going to try do something a bit different. Going to, you know, put our method acting clothes on, and what we're going to do now is act out the interview. Dom will play the part of the interviewer, and I myself will play the part of Captain Metcalf. Let's take it away.
Okay. Did you see the objects at all times of the day, or only at certain times?
Mostly in the afternoons, when we were busy about the house. The patches of yellowish grey water were only seen from Swordland's lodge. I do not think you would see them from a boat unless you were very close.
Did you see the objects at all times of the year, or only certain times?
Yes, particularly in spring.
Have you any knowledge of anyone else reporting a similar sighting?
No.
Why do you think local shepherd Callum Cameron says he has not seen anything significant in the loch in 40 years?
Callum Cameron is a very, very busy man and has very little time to look at the loch. His eyes are on his sheep and cattle, or sawing firewood, planting or lifting potatoes. He saw many boats and drifting logs which he had not seen. He is genuine and truthful, one of the very best.
Was the sighting associated with any particular weather conditions?
No.
In fact, you specifically mentioned patches of light-coloured water. Can you actually say that these were caused by something solid below the water? Or would your experience lead you to support this?
I have already told you that the first sightings we thought it was a family of otters. Later, when the patches were always precisely the same formation and size, it was obviously that they were connected to each other.
How long did an average sighting take from beginning to end? In other words, can we establish a maximum time during which the creature did not surface to breathe air? I want the truth.
You can't handle the
If
truth.
we sighted the monster as it came past at the eastern point of the bay, it would be in sight for about a quarter of an hour. Sometimes it would be 3/4 of an hour. Sometimes it would be 3/4 of a way across before we noticed it, and it passed west for a few minutes.
Might the pattern have started before 1966 without you noticing it, or is this very unlikely?
Oh, improbable. Was
there ever a boat in the vicinity during one of those sightings?
Objection,
so,
you're badgering the witness.
Did the creature react or not?
Yeah. Badgering the witness.
Did a sighting ever occur soon after a boat had passed, or only when the loch had been quiet for some time?
No. All through the winter, we only went down to the loch once or twice a week. There were very few boats on the loch, except in June, July and August, when there might be 4 or 5 in one day.
Was there ever a wash or a wake?
No, it went slowly.
Exactly. What do you mean by fairly frequently? Such as once every few weeks, 2 or 3 times a year, etc.?
Perhaps twice in 1 week, then not for a month.
From your knowledge of the bay, from which points do you think the objects could be seen, and from what height above the water? Do you think they would show up on film, assuming reasonable conditions and expertise?
My knowledge of professional photography is small, but you would require a telescopic lens with colour film to get any picture. And it would tell you nothing more than what I have described.
No, they're always better than when they're blurry.
Do you think these patches tie up with reports of a multi-humped creature?
Yes, definitely.
Would you say the sizes you quote are actual sizes of subsurface objects, or would refraction make them appear smaller or bigger?
It is suggested that you refer to your elementary physics notebook for the angle of light at which a ray passes from the rarer to the denser medium.
Hostile witness.
Looking down from Swordland's Lodge to the outer edge of the bay, the angle at the eye between the lines from the outer to the inner edges of the small patch of water would only be seconds of arc. The angle of incidence to the water would be practically the same, so the refraction would almost be the same, and not worth consideration.
Interesting. Anyway, have you ever formed a theory as to why the creature should only be seen to travel in one direction? If feeding, why should it not retrace its path later on? Why only shallow water on the outward trip, or did it come back at night?
No, impossible to answer.
Have you formed a theory as to what food supply attracted it?
I have often wondered why there are not many more trout in Loch Morar, which is a breeding ground. The herons get some. We have seen big trout eat baby trout. Does the monster feed on trout? Your guess is as good as mine. The end. So there we are. So that's the interview. So there we have it.
I'd say that interview had his shit pushed in, didn't he?
Yeah,
well, I was trying to channel that woman that interviewed Jordan Peterson.
So what you're saying is,
yeah. So it was a cagey interview by Captain Metcalf. Did he have something to hide?
I don't know. That interview sounded like a bit of a bender, didn't he?
Yeah. Well. Also, anyway, so Captain Metcalf was also asked if he would undergo a drugs test, but he said that was just taking the piss.
Hey,
they come in thick and fast, like good. All right, okay, so yeah, so the plot thickens, doesn't it? Loch Morar, the evidence is building up, the witnesses. But anyway, so what we'll do? Let's go over to Dom, and he's going to tell us the more encounters. Loch Morar.
Dom. Old school.
Right. So, on the 27th of August 1968, John McVarish, Loch Morar resident and barman at the Loch Morar Hotel, was out in his boat on the loch and gave the following account. I saw this thing coming. I thought it was a man standing in a boat. But as it got nearer, I saw it was something coming out of the water. I tried to get close to it with the outboard motor, and what I saw was a long neck, 5 or 6 feet out of the water, with a small head on it. Oh, wait, hang on. With a small head on it, dark in colour, coming quite slowly down the loch. When I got to about 300 yards of it, I turned off into the deep and settled down slowly into the loch out of sight. The neck was about 1.5 feet in diameter and tapered up to between 10 inches and 1 foot. I never saw any features, no eyes or anything like that. It was a snake-like head, very small compared to the size of the neck, flattish,
it's a whale on its back.
Flat type of head. It seemed to have been very smooth skin, but at 300 yards it's difficult to tell. It was very dark, nearly black. It was 10 a.m, dead calm, no wind, brilliant sunshine. I saw it for about 10 minutes, travelling very slowly. It didn't alter its angle to the water. It looked as if it was paddling itself along. There was very little movement of the water, just a small streak from the neck. I couldn't really see what was propelling it, but I think there was something at the sides more than behind it.
Interesting. So the flippers are coming into play there. Head, neck, and flippers.
Yeah, it seems like the classic Loch Ness type.
Yeah, Loch Ness and many other lake monster theories. So yeah.
So on July the 8th, 1969, Robert Duff was fishing in his boat on the south shore of Loch Morar. He was doing about 2 knots and looking over the side. The water was about 16 feet deep and very clear. The bottom was almost white with leaves clearly visible on it. Suddenly, Robert saw on the bottom what he described as a monster lizard. It was not more than 20 feet long, motionless and looking up at him. The shock caused him to rev up and get away as fast as possible so that he only saw the creature briefly. Duff described the creature's head as snake-like, with eye slots but no ears. There were 4 legs with 3 digits visible per foot. He saw no neck as he was looking down on the creature from above. The body was rough like burnt coke. I hate that. When you get your coke and it's all sticky and you put it in the microwave, it just burns it.
Oh, coke, what is the stuff you burn in fires?
Yeah. Anyway, when friends assured him he had seen a log, Duff went back to look, but it was no longer there.
I would fucking shit myself if I saw that. So, so that and that's the sort of sighting that you want, isn't it? Not just the distance.
I'm not gonna call the bloke for shitting himself on that one. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'll be there with him.
the creature was looking up at him.
Oh,
Fucking hell, man! So
Can you not
he
just
could.
get eaten and take one for the team, like, so we can prove it's real?
Well,
because they wouldn't find him, would they?
Unless he's lying, it's difficult. It's difficult to say with this one. It could be could he mistake an otter, perhaps? But do otters do that? Do otters just sit at the bottom of the lake? This is this one's the head fuck, isn't it? It's like what? Unless it's just a lie.
It's better. It's better than I gotta admit. It's better than Loch Ness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loch Ness is shit compared to this, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Loch Ness, more like Loch. What a fucking mess! Right.
Yeah, but Loch Ness has got an adventure playground, so that's obviously
a gift shop
and a gift shop. Yeah, the gift shop.
Something's definitely kosher when it's got a gift shop. Yeah.
Nessie's for Morar.
Yeah, Nessie's the distraction for Morar, isn't it?
We soldier on.
Go for it.
In mid-July 1969, shop owner Bertie McLean had a similar sighting to Robert Duff. McLean was fishing his boat on the south shore. Looking over the side into the clear water about 20 feet down, he saw what he described as a great green shape on the bottom. He knew it was not a rock, but could not tell what it was. His friend who was controlling the boat would not take him seriously and would not stop the boat or turn back, so he was unable to get a closer look at it, but he was convinced it was something unusual.
What a wanker. So... Well, there's a monster there. Let's go back and have a look. Nah, we won't. But let's carry on. So, order in here.
If I saw a great green shape on the bottom, I'd probably assume it was like a huge clump of like a lawn of seaweed or something.
Or it could be Morar. And surely by this point, people would have known about the legend. So if someone says to you, "Oh, go back there," even if it is just a clump of seaweed, whatever, you're still going to go back and have a look, aren't you? That guy, who was the driving it, he's a bit of a cunt. That bloke. Yeah, we'll give him a slap if we see him. Yeah. So anyway.
August 11th of the same year, fisherman James Hanratty and John. When he
the dude that burnt a tramp pretended to... That was Hanratty, wasn't it? He was the one that burnt the tramp in the car and pretended to run off. Yeah.
The last person to be hanged, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So anyway, they were travelling up Loch Morar about noon in bright sunshine. No wind and the loch surface was flat calm. John McVarnish may sound familiar, as it was him who had a head and neck sighting the previous year. About 500 yards away, they could see something big moving through the water. They turned their boat towards the object and gave chase. As they drew closer, they saw 3 light brown humps, each 3 or 4 feet out of the water, the shallow depression between each hump. The humps were not separated by the water. The middle hump appeared to be the largest, and the overall length was about 30 feet. By the time they had come close, the object had turned, leaving a big area of churning water as it did so, and was coming back towards them very fast below the surface, leaving a wake like a big outboard motor. Came quite close inshore, still submerged, past them at about 10 to 20 yards, and then disappeared in deep water. The 2 men saw no head or tail, and they were unable to describe the skin texture, although Mr. McVarnish was sure that it was light brown, lighter than the colour of the head and neck that he saw the year before.
So he had 2 sightings. That's a bit lucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
People spend years looking for it, and they see
lucky
fuck all, and then
bleeder.
this guy has 2 sightings. Yeah.
And his name is Mr. McVanish as well, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. McVanish.
On this one, guys.
Yeah.
So
he really is polishing that. He really is polishing that turd, isn't he? Or varnishing that turd, as the case may be.
Okay, so now let's go to Ian, who'll tell us about the most well-known encounter. And you'll see why when he tells you.
Yeah, all right then. So, all right, prepare yourself now. Let's.
Conspiracy theory about this Lake Morag.
Yeah, go on then.
Morag. So
Morag.
I remember
Get it right.
CBBC had a puppet character called Morag, which was a cow. And I'm thinking to myself, they're trying to distract from the fact that, like when Alex Jones went to the Bohemian Grove and he said, that's Moloch, and it was an owl statue, and it's like, no, it's not Moloch, but... So I'm thinking they're trying to confuse the issue by making Morag a cow, and it's like, no, Morag's a monster.
Or it could be a cow going for a swim and just be a mistaken identity, couldn't it?
How that looks like a dinosaur. That's dinosaur's conspiracy theory. A cow which looks like a dragon.
Cow with an erection.
Yeah.
A cow swimming on its back with an erection. That's what it is.
Exactly. But then it's a bull. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know my cows and
why in cartoons do the bulls always? Why in cartoons do the bulls always have udders?
Don't talk about cows too much. My mate punished John Kelly's got the heart for one.
It's like humps. It's the humps thing that is getting me. It's not It's not very dynamic in the water having humps. Why would it have humps?
Maybe they give it buoyancy. Maybe it's like a sea camel.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe it's one of those creatures that never should have existed, and therefore God hates it.
I suppose a whale. If you look at a whale, a whale submerged does have even though it's his back, it is a
humpback whale does.
All right, well,
Blood was supposed to do away with these creatures, but someone was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna subsist on trout, and there's only been one of me left because that's how it works."
Or maybe Scotland has a genetic experiments lab, and they just dump all the rejects in the locks.
Like that film Alligator, when they dump that big giant alligator in
maybe
the
someone
sewers.
flushed the monster down the toilet, and the sewage pipe is in Loch Ness or Loch Morar.
Yeah.
Nuclear waste got into the loch. Now look what's happened. Makes sense. Anyway, all right then. Okay, so let's look at this one then. Let's move on to the next encounter with Morag. Okay. On August the 16th, 1969, Scottish fishermen Duncan MacDonald and William Simpson were casting their lines from their speedboat out into the loch. It was just after 9 p.m. and visibility was still good, but the men decided to finish for the day and return back to shore. All of a sudden, they heard a splash behind them. MacDonald, who was at the wheel, turned the boat to go and investigate what had caused the splash. To the men's astonishment, it turned out to be a large creature travelling directly at them at a speed of 20 to 30 miles per hour. Within seconds, the creature struck the side of the boat, then stopped. MacDonald got the impression that the collision had been an accident, but feared the creature's sheer bulk could easily capsize the boat. He grabbed an oar and tried to push the creature away, while Simpson rushed into the cabin to grab his rifle. The oar snapped. Then Simpson fired a single shot at the creature, but it seemed unaffected by the blast and slowly submerged and moved away out of sight. So, someone actually shot the creature. Shortly afterwards, the men were interviewed by the BBC, ITV, and the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau. The men seemed genuinely shaken by the encounter and were credible. They described the creature as being 25 to 30 feet long with dirty brown rough skin. It had 3 large black humps and a snake-like head. They admitted they had been drinking whiskey, but insisted that they weren't pissed. Okay.
Well, I mean...
There's a Loch Ness Investigation Bureau.
Yeah. It's that was in the 60s and early and the 70s as well.
Do they have cards? Are they the LIB? Are they the LIB?
Yeah, basically, yeah. No, they were.
Will they run on taxpayer money or?
No, just sort of. I'm not sure who they were, but people investigating the Loch Ness phenomena, volunteers, those kind of people. But we'll come on to that. So, that encounter we've just heard there, that's what could have happened. You know, the monster rammed into the boat. They shot the monster. They hit it with an oar. They had a good sight in. It wasn't an otter. Wasn't a cow. Wasn't a eel.
Could have been a really big otter. It could have been a really big otter, and there was ball lightning, and Venus was in the sky.
Yep, there you go.
Could have been a manatee.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
and
not in Loch Morar.
And narcolepsy. That's the other one, isn't it?
Conger eel, but then that wouldn't live in fresh water, would it? So,
I mean,
why would they lie? Why would they?
Not hallucinogenic, is it? You can drink whiskey and you won't see stuff.
Some whiskey has speed in it. Whiskey does have some whiskey has speed in it, but that's not really it.
It could be a massive freshwater eel. You seen that Jeremy Wade one in New Zealand where they're swimming up the sheep's ass?
Oh no!
I've seen most of the Jeremy Wade ones. I've not seen one where one swims up a sheep's ass.
You don't get to see it, mate.
You're watching animal porn, not rather than Jeremy. Is that what you're watching?
The sheep are crossing the creek, and he says the eels go up their ass and start eating their guts up.
Right.
Fucking disturbing, mate. Apparently they'll do it to you too, mate. Fuck.
Oof.
Well,
A bit like that fish which swims up your pee hole because.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. And so, all right. Well, but even so.
Avoid natural bodies of water.
I thought, yeah,
So
just avoid nature. Avoid nature. Stay in your concrete flat.
Yeah, especially if you're an urbanite, you don't want to come to the countryside. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Just don't take a boat out onto Loch Morar.
Yeah.
Don't upturn it either.
But no, listen to the last.
Do upturn it and have a bit of a laugh at the residents' expense.
But that last encounter, though, that is quite, that's quite specific, and unless they're lying, then obviously that's very difficult to explain what happened there.
Wouldn't lie, would they?
No.
Why would someone lie about something like that, Ian?
Well, people do lie. It could be a lie, but
no, not about stuff like
this.
Obviously.
Yeah,
you know what?
Anyway,
the wild
okay.
got suspicious, didn't they? And they asked, like, what were you doing out in the lake? And they had to make that shit up because, they were
But anyway, okay. But that's all we've got, That's all we've got to go on. But anyway, okay. But that's the money shot. That sighting. That's what really put this case on the map. Anyway, okay. Let's look at another encounter. So. In late August 1969, John Clement stayed.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I just realised there's a shitload of stuff going on in '69, isn't there?
That's all the drugs. That's all the hallucinogens.
In the 69 you do. Yeah, 69 you're like licking out. You're like getting sucked off. Like rimming.
Yeah,
it's all going on down there in the 69. Yeah. It's
also in 1969 as well.
Oh right, yeah.
You know the speed limit for a woman in bed, don't you, lads? It's 68 because at 69 she blows a rod.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I get it. Yeah. All right. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to this. So in late August 1969, John Clement stayed in a B&B on the banks of Loch Morar. Shortly after his arrival at the accommodation, Clements was looking out of the window at the loch when he saw a group of disturbances.
Didn't Ralph McTell do that song, a B&B on the banks of Loch Morar?
Don't recall that now. So disturbances on the flat calm surface of the loch. This was happening a long way to the east and the opposite side, As he continued to watch, the disturbances moved gradually westward and closer. They kept appearing and disappearing and reappearing in a synchronized manner. It looked as though there were three masses joined together by a pole moving together. When the disturbances appeared almost opposite, he called his landlady, Mrs. Parks, and they went outside with binoculars for a closer look. They saw the disturbances disappear, and they did not appear again. Mrs. Clement estimated that each of the three patches was about the length of a small dinghy, with an equal distance between them. He could not say whether anything had actually broken the surface or not. So, yeah.
It could have been the Scottish synchronised swimming team, couldn't it?
Could have been, but what were they doing in Loch Morar rather than in an actual proper training pool?
It was closed for maintenance.
Loch Morar. Say Loch Morar.
All right. Actually, I don't even get my words out. What about like algal blooms? Wouldn't they form patches?
Could have done. Maybe it was the Paralympic team. Anyway, okay, then let's go on to the next thing. Related. It's related. This is related. So, in February...
No, that Ellie What's-Her-Face is too small, isn't she?
Anyway, in February 1970, Mrs. Parks, who was mentioned in the previous report, was lucky enough to have a second sighting of Morar. She was walking along the banks of the loch with her young nephew, about half a mile from her house. She looked across the flat, calm loch towards the sandy shore, about a mile into the distance, known locally as White Beach. About 30 yards out from the shore, she saw what first looked like three cows standing in water. Three motionless black humps. They both saw the three humps clearly and watched until all three submerged simultaneously. Mrs. Parks hurried her child on, not wanting to frighten him, and told him that they must have been ducks. The child said, "They must have been awfully big ducks. Yeah, they must have been awfully big ducks, Auntie." She estimated the total length to have been about 30 feet.
Why is it always 30 feet? Is this like some gematria thing or fucking...
Well, the monster must be 30 feet, isn't it? It's a big monster, 30 feet long.
She later had an incident. She later had an incident with the same small boy where he went in and found her naked after she had a shower. He said, "What's that?" She said, "It's my axe wound from God." He said, "Fucking good shot. He hit you right in the cunt." Yeah. It was kicked out of the Owl Reenactment Society. They didn't like my cavalier attitude. So anyway, let's get on with this. All right, okay, let's get on with this. Okay, in May 1970, Mr. T.E.J., a retired schoolmaster living in a house overlooking the western end of the loch, and his wife... Yeah, exactly. Saw a peculiar sight. No doubt he wanted to remain anonymous to avoid ridicule, so he gave his initials rather than his full name. You know. IP Freely, was it?
So yeah, that's probably a good idea to live with the fucking shame of what he's done. So
what was he doing on that lake? That nobody wouldn't want anyone to know what he was up to.
They were looking out of their kitchen window at about 7:45 a.m. and they saw a V-shaped wake travelling slowly eastwards across the loch. Nothing broke the surface, and the wake continued to move in the same direction for about 15 minutes. No boat had passed. They saw nothing that could account for the wake. He later said they'd seen a similar wake on several occasions. So again, you know, we're getting multi-witnesses seeing, you know, the creature on multiple occasions. So interesting. On the 14th of July 1970, members of the Loch Ness Phenomena Investigation Bureau got wind of what was going on at the Loch Morar, so came to check it out for themselves. They were finding fuck all at Loch Ness. So basically, yeah. So you know, the people who were investigating Loch Ness pissed off with that, so they came to Loch Morar because they'd heard what was going on. 3 members of the group, Dr. Neil Bass, marine biologist, Philip D. Nathalie, a research technician, and William Parker, found what they were looking for. The three men were walking along the north shore of the loch when it started to piss down with rain. They sought refuge under some trees. There was a light breeze, and the loch surface was rippling. Though overcast, visibility was good. As the rain cleared, Dr. Bass looked out to the loch and reported the following. I noticed a hump-shaped black object which may have been there for rather longer than the time which I saw it. I called my companions. By the time they arrived, it had gone. It was about a third of the distance across the water. Following this, within half a mile, without reappearances of the hump. A disturbance was witnessed by all of us at the same place, and followed by a radiating water rings which travelled from a circle to at a maximum of 50 yards in diameter. So Dr. Bass saw the object. His colleagues didn't, but they saw the disturbance that it caused. Dr. Bass described the object as black and smooth in colour. When it submerged, it went vertically down. Though the sighting was brief, it's one of the most important sightings as it was made by a practicing aquatic biologist. So yeah, you've got scientists now, not nutcases, scientists seeing it, objects in Loch Morar.
What about Professor Nutt, who was the former drugs advisor for the government?
I'm not sure if he had a sighting, but yeah. So the plot thickens. Experts are moving in. You know. What's going on?
No,
Let's go over the. Hey?
Still no photographs yet.
Well, you don't get photographs. Not everyone. This was before the days of camera phones, so.
I suppose so.
Does a lack of photographs make it more reputable or less?
Looking at the photographs that come from Loch Ness, I think it makes it more reputable.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
All that does is discredit the monster. So,
is that where they got wise? And there's like, well, if we don't have any photographs, they can't say how shit they are.
Anyway, all right. Quite true. Let's go over the.
I can't point out it's fake if there's no picture.
Exactly.
Should give NASA some tips.
It's not a something drawn on a picture then taken. Then a photo taken again. Anyway, let's go over to the Dom now. He's going to tell some more tales from the early 70s as the mystery builds momentum. Okay, Dom, it's over to you.
So, from the very early 70s, July 1970. Mr. and Mrs. Adam Malcolm had their third sighting of the creature. It was 9:10 a.m. when Mr. Malcolm noticed a pattern of disturbed water moving across the waves. There was nothing visible above the surface. The disturbance moved steadily across the loch about 6 miles per hour. It was visible for about 20 minutes. I mean, did he have one of those police radar gun things? How does he know it's 6 miles an hour?
I suppose he could drive his car and he can... Yeah. He knows what he's doing.
Can accurately ascertain the speed of a moving thing, and it's just one of those feats of Scotchness.
Scotchness.
They know where to find shortbread, and they know how to estimate speed and distance.
Yep.
Anyway, on the 4th of August 1970, Loch Ness investigation member and zoology student Alan Butterworth was scanning the east shore of the loch through binoculars at about 11:10 a.m. The water surface was flat, calm, and visibility was good, 3 or 4 miles. He spotted a dark-coloured hump in an inlet. It was about 15 feet long and 3 or 4 feet high. It was about 1.5 miles away. Mr. Butterworth reached for his camera, but when he looked again, the object had disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
For fuck's sake!
Wow, he's bang on it, this fella, isn't he? Yeah. The Loch Ness fucking bullshit society, more like, hey.
But on the 5th of August, day after Butterworth's sighting, at about 5 p.m,
quote unquote sighting.
John McVarnish decided to go out in his boat.
Oh, that him again?
Him again, yep. He was about 3/4 of a mile from the eastern end of the loch when he saw a big disturbance in the water about 30 yards away from him. When the water settled, a wave of about 2 feet high spread out from it, well out into the loch. He knew of nothing this large in the loch that could have caused such a disturbance. On the 11th of September 1970, Charles Fishburne and Ian Mitchell were out in their small boat at dusk.
What, him off the
9 p.m.
Matrix?
when they passed. Yeah, that's his dad.
Yeah.
It was 9 p.m. when they passed.
Neo, what if I was to tell you Loch monsters are real?
He takes a blue pill. Doesn't want
Yeah.
So it was at 9 p.m. when they passed Brinnacorry Island, a small island in the loch about 700 yards from the north shore. Fishburne reported the following. Suddenly I noticed 3 objects silhouetted in the water, 100 yards off the port bow, i.e. in the middle of the loch. The water was clear and smooth, and the objects were black and clearly protruding. My first reaction was that they were trees or maybe rocks, but then I realised that they were much more, and I know that there are no rocks in that area. Then I realised that the objects were moving. We got closer to them, and I could see that it was not a boat or something like that. At this point I could see that it was about 30 yards from us, and 3 large black humps were visible, moving quickly through the water. I alerted my friend Ian, who could not see anything, and said I was imagining things, but then we encountered 3 peculiar swells, unlike any boat wake I've ever seen. Each swell was deep and long, so that the boat rose and fell gradually with each rather than rocking or barging against them. My friend agreed that I did not imagine the swells, and they were very odd. At that point we got out of there and onto dry land.
Shit. I wouldn't want to be in that boat.
Brown trousers time.
Yeah.
I need a bigger
Quick
boat.
gun time.
Choosers.
I'd soil myself too, yeah.
Donald
Gotta make a
versus
bigger boat.
choosers.
I soiled myself for
In
that.
hell.
You manky Scotch git.
Okay, let's go on.
Oh yeah, November 1970, Angus Cameron, who was in charge of a small hydroelectric power station on the banks of the loch, was looking across the southern end of the loch when he saw a large brown object rushing across the water at a speed of 25 to 30 miles an hour. Initially he thought it was a boat, but on closer inspection it turned out to be a solid hump about 4 feet high, rising to a small peak on top. He likened it to a policeman's helmet.
Okay.
A permanent helmet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey.
He watched the object as it went out of sight, leaving a light wake behind it. He checked if there had been any boats in the area at that time when the harbour mark.
Purplish hue to this wake?
Sorry?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I was to say, was there a purplish hue to the wake?
Yeah. So, well, what was I? Yeah. So he checked if there had been any boats, and with the harbour master, and there hadn't been. So yeah, that's that one. So December the 21st, 3 school children were returning from their lessons at 3:30 p.m. As they passed the loch on their way home, they noticed a funny object in the water. Initially, they saw one hump. As they watched, it turned right, and a second hump became visible, forming a V-shaped division on the object. The object submerged very slowly and described it as moving like a caterpillar. They then ran home and told their parents, who didn't believe them. Later, they were cross-examined by experts who classed them as reliable witnesses. April 3rd, 1971, it was the Gillies family who lived on the shore of the loch turned to encounter the Morar. Family's 12-year-old son John came running up to the house to say he had seen a strange creature in the water. whilst walking along the road to Morar. It was about 11 a.m. and weather conditions were good. Mr. Gillies went to see what the fuss was about and saw the monster about half a mile out from the shore. It was lying in the water, facing towards the east. It had a long neck, 3 or 4 feet long and fairly thick, sticking straight up and slightly curved at the top. The head was barely distinguishable. Behind the neck were 2 or 3 humps which appeared to be moving up and down. There was very little movement of the water. The skin appeared black and shiny, and the total length was about 30 feet. Mr. Gillies had his camera and took 2 photos. The creature lowered its head, whole body straightened out, and it then sank straight down. Sighting lasted for about 8 minutes. The photos he took showed nothing much, which was a shame.
Bloody hell. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. Photos of this.
Yeah. You think that's a perfect storm there, but no. Fuck.
That's a big disappointment.
So anyway, on the 8th of August 71, Sween MacDonald was working on the engine of his boat in a boathouse on the shore of the loch. Coming out of the boathouse, he saw a small disturbance on the surface of the water, 25 to 30 yards away from him. As he watched, some object moved away, barely breaking the surface and making a whitewash as it travelled. He could hear the swish of the water thrown aside as it moved, and he estimated the speed to be about 10 knots. The object zigzagged for about 200 yards before he lost sight of it. Now let's go over to Ian, who's going to tell us what happened when the experts decided
that's the first time I've heard someone estimating speed in knots and not land miles.
Yeah,
they're
the correct
nautical
way.
people. Yeah, they're nautical people, aren't they? They know what they're they know what they're doing. But so a lot of cases there, aren't there? A lot of, the evidence is building up. So, the main thing that strikes us when we're looking at this is that these reports that they're better ones than the ones that come from Loch Ness. The evidence suggests that it's more likely to be a monster in Loch Morar than there is in Loch Ness, and the witnesses seem to come from respectable backgrounds: doctors, army captains, headmasters, a barman. Many of the Loch Ness, Loch Ness witnesses.
Is barman a respectable occupation?
I tell you what, I tell you what, barman is a good job to have. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but if you've been a barman in the past, you know what I mean. So whereas Loch Ness, the witnesses tend to be fruitcakes, don't they? Nutcases in jobs. So
glory hounds.
Yeah,
glory hounds, aren't they?
Yeah. So anyway, as mentioned earlier, reports of Morag didn't escape the attention of the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau, a team of assorted biologists, zoologists, students, the unemployed, and nutters. Who are trying to solve the Loch Ness mystery. They headed to Loch Morar to get a piece of this action. I say nutters, but, in reality, we shouldn't laugh. Mental health isn't funny. It's fucking hilarious. So the clear waters of the loch would make it much easier to see a creature below the surface, unlike the peat-stained water of Loch Ness. So it was a JFK to carry out research at Loch Morar. It was a JFK.
What is a JFK?
It was a JFK. No, it was a JFK to carry out research at Loch Morar. It was a no-brainer to carry out research.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
I've used that. But come on, that's my joke. That's my joke. Come on.
Sorry, mate. I forgot about JFK.
So it was a no-brainer to carry out research at Loch Morar. So a JFK, because he had his. Yeah, you were with me. He had his brains.
Could have
did he? Or did he?
He did. Yeah, we saw it on camera, didn't we? His brains went across the back of the car, didn't they? It was all there for see. So it was a no-brainer. So it was a JFK. That's what I mean. Yeah, with it. Yeah. Good. So anyway, all right then. So basically, then, okay. So number of expeditions took place in the 1970s, and the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau changed its name to the Loch Ness and Loch Morar project because it was carrying out research.
They're trying to discredit the Loch Morar monster now, are they?
Well, yeah, they were trying to prove both monsters, but it had disproved the Loch Ness monster, so it was getting on.
The same PT brush.
Yeah, so anyway, the project deployed video cameras into the depths so that it could capture a creature, and it could be observed on CCTV. A glass-bottom boat called Pequod was used to search the bottom of the loch and find possible skeletal remains of the creature. Project leader Adrian Shine constructed an underwater observation chamber so that he could look up from the bottom of the loch and see a monster's profile. Let's go on to the next picture, if you could, Hemi, and we'll have a look at this observation chamber. Let's have a look and see it. Some people.
Well, that's groovy, isn't it?
So, let's have a look at that.
Men in Sheds, the story of the United Kingdom, isn't it? Hey?
Yeah. There he is in his fucking death trap. So taking a shit in there as well.
I wonder if he's killed any Norwegian journalists in that one.
I'm not sure, but he could kill himself in that.
I wonder how many people get that joke. No, there was a billionaire that had his own submarine. He murdered a journalist and fucking dumped it at the bottom of the bay, didn't he?
Base.
Oh yeah, that was an unusual story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, okay. So anyway, there we go. So many hours were spent observing the loch with many volunteers. Each year, a report was published on the project's findings from their research in the loch. So if you go to the next picture, Hemi, we'll have a look at the 1975 report.
That is Death Trap, is it, in action?
There he is, there, and is that fucking idiot getting into that. Let's have a look at... that's a Darwin Award winner in potential Darwin Award winner, isn't it? There. So go to the next picture. Let's have a look at the 1976 report, and we'll have a look at that one there. Go to the next image 11. Have a look at the diver. So the reports were full of information about that year's research on the loch, and it tells you all about the things that they found. And do you know what they found?
Fuck all.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you what they found.
Nothing.
I'll tell you what they found. Fuck all. That's what they found. Fuck all. So.
Wow, I'm so surprised by that revelation. Here I was looking for the HD pictures of a dragon of the deeps, and instead we just get. All I went was to Lake Morar, and I got this lousy tea cozy.
And I got this lousy bath death trap looking thing.
So, all right. So that's what we got. So let's just calm. Okay. We'll take a minute. We'll just calm down now. Calm down about what.
The excitement is so much. I have palpitations.
Take a deep breath. So, all right. Though the scientists found nothing, the public was still having strange experiences at Loch Morar. In 1975, Charles Simpson and his brother Donald were driving towards Barracona near Loch Morar on a bird watching expedition.
I like bird watching.
Yep.
I like great tits.
Me too.
Sometimes you get to see a shack on the cliffs, don't you?
Yeah.
I like to watch a beaver. I do. So. Yeah. So the Morar River, as it leaves the loch, flows over a narrow ridge of gravel, and it's only a couple of feet deep. So I'll tell you what, then we're going to have a look at this story. Let's go into the next picture there, Hemi. We'll look at the.
What do we got now?
Let's have a look at the gravel area of the loch. This is picture number 11. Have a look at that now. This is the area we're looking at for this encounter. At 3 p.m., just as the brothers were passing the spot, Charles, who was watching the road ahead, heard his brother, who was driving, suddenly gasp and choke as if he was unable to breathe. I was terrified. He'd had a heart attack, Charles said. But then he braked and pointed to the water. This will startle the world, was all that he could say at first. When I asked him what he meant, he said, did you not see it? When what Donald had seen was a powerful 20-foot-long animal which rose out of the river, less than 40 feet from his car. It lurched across the gravel bar, sank into the deeper waters of the loch. The episode only lasted a few seconds, but left a deep impression on the man.
I think I've heard this story before. I think that's what I was talking about when I was talking about Nessie walking from one place to another. I think that's what.
This is what we've got. So he had been very skeptical about Morar the legend. He said the creature had smooth brown skin, powerful hindquarters, which were evident as it hauled itself over the gravel bar. He saw no ears or eyes, but he said what looked like a trunk trailing alongside the body. So if you go to the next picture,
was it a whale penis?
We can have a look. It could be. Go to the next picture. Let's have a look at.
Was that his donger? Was that his donger he was dragging along the floor there? Was it
some kind of length? Isn't it? Maybe it was John Holmes on his latest picture.
Where's it said at?
That though.
We'll always have Lake Morar.
That's unusual, isn't it? That's not. That's what he saw. I'm not sure. That's very unusual.
Is that a fart cloud coming out his arse?
He dropped his guts. There was a terrible stench in the air, and he followed through. But so odd.
It's not pink enough to be a whale penis, is it?
Oh no! I did actually see some whale penises that are black, so you get black ones as well.
Right.
Anyway,
the Hebrew is
good to know there's diversity in the whale community.
Well, we see some diversity coming up, so that's more of a modern sighting. So, as the years went by, mysterious occurrences kept happening on the loch. So, what we're going to do? Let's go over to the Dom. He's going to tell us about some of these. Over to you.
Right. Let's have a look at a more nice. Hang on.
Yeah, recent one.
More. Let's look at a more recent news report and see what antics Morar has been up to lately.
Are we actually going to get some evidence now?
Here we go.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course. We're actually going to get some.
Get the next picture. Get the next picture up, Hemi. Let's have a look.
Okay,
so one out of focus picture. Come on.
Yeah, let's see what Morag has done.
Body in Loch Morar kayaker search named as Alexander Thorburn.
Yes, he's finally ate someone. We've got
kayaks. The only good kayak's a dead kayak.
I
can't stand those shifty kayaks. Please carry on.
So, on the 29th of April 2013, 48-year-old Alex Thorburn was reported as missing during a canoeing trip on Loch Morar. Believers suggested his body was snatched by Morag and dragged down to a watery grave. Body was later discovered and an autopsy found he had just drowned in an unfortunate accident, and there was no evidence suggest he was killed by a monster.
Nothing anti-Semitic about it.
That's a bit shit, isn't it, then?
Kayaks.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, it's a shame that because in 1952 on Loch Ness, John Cobb, who tried to break the world speed record on water, his boat hit a rogue wave at high speed. Cobb's body was thrown 50 yards, killing him. So the Loch Ness monster was actually blamed for that death. So it's a bit of a shame if Morag didn't carry out this. They both could have killed
manslaughter.
Someone. So it's a bit
manslaughter. It was.
Yeah, it's a bit shit. If it
Morag was on the rag. It weren't her fault. She's got a promising future ahead of her. So we won't put her in prison for this murder. What
Morag
she did in Oxford.
Morag said to me, "I'm not having sex with you tonight." period. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I think Morag's been around for a while though, hasn't she? So I imagine she's probably figured out how to make it look like an accident.
Knows what she's doing.
So, in August 2020, only last year, it seems like, I don't know.
A long time ago.
Retired oil industry engineer Doug Christie and his wife Charlotte were on holiday at Loch Morar when he had the shock of his life. We can see a picture of him, please.
A lovely couple.
What was the shock of his life? She found him in bed with he found her in bed.
Hang on.
Sweeties.
So have we got the picture?
Yeah, they're up.
There.
They're up.
It's there.
There's that. Okay. Yeah.
They look like a couple of swingers, don't they?
And to earn a bit of money on the side, Doug would work as a Sid James lookalike.
Well.
So, Doug was not one to give in to flights of fancy, but could not believe his eyes when he saw a 20-foot black shape in the water. The couple saw the beast 3 times during their stay. Doug said it looked a bit like a submarine and about the same size. The longest sighting they had lasted for about 10 minutes before it submerged. Doug did manage to get a photo of the beast, so let's have a look.
So he's literally seen it every day for about 4 days, and he only got one photo. Great, that's fantastic.
But when you see the photo, you'll be impressed.
Yeah, it's conclusive evidence.
Fucking absolutely! Look at that.
That can only be.
That's Morag. That's a real creature.
Yeah.
It's a 30-foot plesiosaur.
No, dragon. Plesiosaur's a conspiracy theory, like climate crisis, emergency, apocalypse.
There you go. So, Morag definitely
conclusive
exists.
evidence.
Yes, finally, a blurry photograph.
Totally conclusive evidence.
Well, it is.
Not to miss out on cashing in on their
I'm not
monster.
pished.
I'm not pished. And then it comes Drugstable. So not to miss out on cashing in on their monster, let's have a look at a diverse couple and see what Morag merchandise you can waste your money on.
Oh, lovely.
Back again. Let's have a look. We saw them last month. They modelled the Bell Mills faces t-shirts.
That is a seriously gay tattoo he's got there with those fucking roses, isn't it?
These are the indigenous races of Scotland.
Yes.
There we go.
An Asian man and a half black, half white woman. Yeah.
Excellent. So there we go. You have the monster of Loch Morar. Real or not real?
Oh, totally.
You decide.
Whale penis.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mean, can I show the picture on YouTube or not of the whale penis?
I think you should. It
Basically,
needs to be shown in all its pink glory.
Oh dear, right.
For scientific veracity, we must show this because we have an inquiring audience of naturists.
Yeah, basically, some comedian dude is.
Let's have a look at it then.
Can't fucking find
This
it.
could explain sea serpents.
Could explain seas. Yeah, it's one hell of a sea serpent.
Buy one of those. I might buy. You can buy with those t-shirts online though. You can.
I got to use this joke. I haven't found an opportunity yet. Is it as wet as an otter's pocket? It's
Is it
one-
Wet as
Yeah.
Is it as big as a wizard's sleeve?
yeah. Now, people are going to be very disturbed by the stuff I'm putting up now because I can't find the actual picture, so I'm going to have to show the whole fucking whale penis page.
I heard they made like stools out of whale penis, like the swanky bars in Victorian era London. It'd be like.
So there we go. Let's enlarge that so everyone can see it.
Why do you need to enlarge it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So some dude said that could be the Loch Ness monster.
Oh, what?
Blue
It's the
whale
wrong
can't get into
shape.
Loch Ness.
So it's Loch Ness. The Loch Ness monster is he's very happy while he's jumping, isn't he?
Just get your dicks out for Morar.
Yeah, look, there's a black whale penis. The sperm whale has a black penis.
But what about a circumcised whale penis?
Helmet penis.
Maybe that would look more like the Loch Ness monster.
How about this story I've just found? Whale penis by the pound. Although that's pork loin. The picture is pork loin, so fuck Flickr.
Hey, mate, I thought this was a serious stream. A whale can't get into Loch Ness.
Well, that's the bit I was wondering about.
Jeremy Wade reckons it's a Greenland shark.
Greenland shark. I don't think you can find a Greenland shark penis. Okay, let's have a look at the shark penis.
This is Greenland shark.
Maybe there's underwater caves linking all the lochs to the sea.
Yeah.
No, not underwater caves. It's openly fucking linked. Shit, man. It's.
I've just seen
Jeremy Wade said it's a Greenland shark that swam in. That's his theory.
Shit.
Well,
Sharks have two dicks.
Yeah, big weird things. There's a channel of a Japanese guy cutting it up. You should see it.
Oh, okay.
Teenager's penis ripped off by shark while swimming. Oof.
Oh,
kid.
The last time you want your penis to be lopped off at any age is when you're a teenage, because you just figured out what to do with it, and it's like,
yeah, that's just cruel.
What are you going to do with your summer?
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear.
So apparently we're not discussing the Greenland shark theory. Fuck's sake! I thought this was a serious stream.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about it.
okay.
Then.
No,
I would say that these links go down to Hollow Earth.
That's right. That's just his opinion. It's just Jeremy fucking Wade. He thinks he's so fucking hard in it. Anyway.
What do you say? Do you think
it's
it's
so hard? If he
possible
thinks
or
it's
not
so hard, why doesn't
possible?
he wank off a Greenland shark?
Yeah.
No, it's because they live so long. It's like they're like 800 years or some ridiculous age. So the amount of sightings and the amount of times a Greenland shark could have come in and out is possible.
But does a Greenland shark have a large penis?
Is what the audience needs to know.
They've got those two weird ones, like Emmy's talking about, two little spiky things that looks very odd.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of like a snake dick. They have two half willies.
Jeez, you guys
grim.
just can't help yourselves tonight. Jeez, everyone's been on the piss or something.
Crazy.
I don't know, lads. I'm sold on the whale penis. I'm sold on the whale penis theory.
Isn't that
Does anyone like fish sticks?
That's not getting into Loch Ness.
Who likes fish sticks?
Fish sticks.
In your mouth.
You'll have Kanye West in my DMs and I'll be in all kinds of trouble.
Does anyone like fish sticks?
Yeah.
That was a blue whale sound.
Man, bear, pig.
Yeah.
Isn't that a tampon after a woman's?
Oh, apparently Greenland sharks live in the deep mostly, though.
Yeah, that's what Jeremy Wade said as well, but he says it could be that it came in because it is deep in the loch as well. And it comes in and goes out. It comes in and goes out.
I saw
Do they surface a lot, though?
He's just saying that. I think Jeremy Wade has done better programs. I think he did a Loch Ness program, and he's just saying that to make it more interesting. I don't think there's a Greenland shark. I don't think the Greenland shark explains Loch Ness. I think it's just generally not there. But he's done better programs than Loch Ness. Though I do like the Loch Ness one. I like the mystery, but to be honest,
eels swimming up the sheets ponds, So
he's done the one he did in Chernobyl was good because what happens if you wear Russian underpants?
Your knob will fall off.
Your knob will fall. Your dick will fall off. Your knob will fall off.
Your knob will fall off.
Your knob will fall off. Penis will fall off. So yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a theory. I've got a theory. Do you think these humps in these locks? Do you think they might be actually fatbergs?
Fat birds.
Fat birds.
The fatbergs you see in the sewers, like big balls of fat that are clogging up the sewers.
They're not.
I don't know. You got a theory. You got a theory. Tonight's going to be a good night. Tonight's going to be a good night.
Oh, horrible song.
Oh, I got a feeling. Do you want to talk about the mystery? Do you want to talk about the mystery cube that points to the Nazi nuclear program? Well, why didn't they fucking do it then and nuke everybody?
Is it that they were spending too much time with like heavy water refining and they should have done uranium instead? Or
well, one of the few surviving relics from this era is what's known as a Heisenberg cube, a block of uranium held at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory that has long been suspected as being a relic from Germany's nuclear program and has been the subject of study for decades, apparently. But why is it in America? I'd like to see the chain of custody on that.
Wait, just one random thing. Is Hobbit, you've been to Malta, right? Isn't there like a nuke in a museum in Malta that didn't go off?
Oh, I didn't know about that. No, that's completely news to me.
It might not be real. I thought I'd ask you. Anyway, go ahead, guys.
Sure.
So do you think? I don't think they would. I think they'd have fucking let them loose, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Do you have the Loch Ness TripAdvisor review? Can we read that one?
Yes, we need the important things, Hemi.
If I can find it.
Next year I'm going to go to Disneyland. At least there you can see Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Scotland, more like Snoreland.
It's in the Sun, and I found it. Loch Ness tourist leaves hilarious TripAdvisor review after failing to spot legendary monster. The writer, known as Ron, drove more than 400 miles with his family in search of the infamous creature. After spending hours in search of Nessie, the dad wrote a scathing review on TripAdvisor, telling of his bitter disappointment. He gave Loch Ness just 1 star, writing, "What a disappointment. We travelled 400 miles from Grimsby to see the Loch Ness monster and it didn't show up. Don't go if you wanted to see it, because you'll end up bitterly disappointed like we were. Wife and 2 kids waited around it for hours. Viewpoints were crowded and dirty and the weather was terrible. One moment sunshine, the next it was hard to keep up. I thought the whole experience was horrendous, I wish I hadn't bothered. It's just a tourist trap, and not sure why they would advertise the Loch Ness monster when it's all a big lie."
Oh. Yeah, but you can go there for other things. You're not necessarily going to see the monster, but there's good castles there, good museums. There's a monastery.
Looks like Dom's been there recently. Meanwhile, Dom Phillips commented, "Must be fake, surely."
Well, it's a good place to go. And if you don't want to go there, go to Loch Morar.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go there, go to Edinburgh. Loads of stuff there. Edinburgh's a great place.
Oh, have you seen the picture from April this year, Ian?
I've not. No, what we got there?
There you go. It's on screen now. It's a black line. It's a black line in the lake.
Yep, that's a dragon.
Getting better and better, don't they?
Yeah.
No one's heard of HD cameras yet, have they?
No, of course not.
No.
That's just a conspiracy theory, Madfwaz.
Yeah.
No one's heard of 24-hour surveillance, have they? Motion tracking and.
Yeah. There is 24-hour surveillance at Loch Ness. You can go onto the Nessie cam and you can watch. You can watch Loch Ness 24 hours if you want.
That reminds me,
if you haven't got a girlfriend or something like that.
Yeah. Sounds about as interesting as SETI cam.
What's that? Silly excuse to investigate? That's what Jim Mars used to call it, didn't he?
That reminds me of the first episode of Big Brother. First season, and there was this website called An Alternative to Big Brother, and it was literally a camera pointed at a wall where you could watch paint dry.
They should do a Big Brother just for fat people and call it Big Mother.
Big Bubba.
And
Feds
all
launching...
their challenges are food based.
Exactly, yeah.
Feds launch investigation into self-driving cars. You guys seen this one? Tesla's self-driving car technology has caused a number of road accidents involving emergency vehicles. Haya Rada, professor of electrical and computer engineering at Michigan State University, takes a look at exactly why the authorities are so interested in Tesla's autopilot technology. So they're saying it's shit, basically, then.
Oh, speaking of Tesla, have you heard, like, Elon Musk has been tweeting weird, like, lately? Like, he said one on a book about World War One, and then he said 9 rings to rule men, like he's kind of predicting the end of the world or something.
Oh, so he's getting hobbit pilled. Good. Has he been smoking Joe Rogan's marijuana again?
Well, he's just gonna. everyone's gonna have a Tesla self-driving car. Then he's gonna go execute Order 66, isn't he? And then the car's just gonna kill everyone.
The cars just like crumple up into a square, and everyone inside is crushed.
Just the batteries have a critical runaway event and then thermal overload.
Basically, I've got an answer as to why the cars are crashing, because Americans are thick. They think the car's literally Knight Rider when they're supposed to still be keeping an eye on shit.
It's like that time when those feminists built that bridge, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
when that Yank was in his camper van and he put it on cruise control and went in the back to make a cup of coffee.
The feminists built a bridge.
Yes.
Here's one for you, Biarki. You seen this one? ABC. Go on then, Ian. Finish off.
I thought feminists would be more likely to build a dike.
Oh. I've seen that today. It's like 2 seconds.
Anyway.
The ABC News report is interrupted by satanic ritual.
I've seen that today, and you wouldn't know how it came up. Some of the Wignats giving me shit for running coverage for satanic glow nigs. I'm like, I don't think so. It's because they're talking about the stuff TRS is talking about at the moment. It's like, what? Apparently I'm a Satanist because I like black metal. Here, mate. Show me this. I'm like,
the thing is though, it's probably
look at that. What that is at some goths at like high school.
Yeah.
Like what is that? It's not. That's not.
It's larpy as fuck, isn't it?
You know, run an article on it and got it mixed in there, editing or something.
Well, they're probably filming something for that. They're probably filming something for their fucking satanic boss anyway, weren't they? Look, the girl there's got a fucking keyboard. I mean, they're not serious. No serious Satanists sat there with their keyboard about to do a tune, are they?
New Satanists, yeah, fucking
yeah, new wave Satanism.
The thing is, Satanism is now like a lefty thing, and it's like it's cyclical. Occult on the show is appropriate subject on this occult. This what you call it, your paranormal show here. Occult cycles are like cyclical in like 30-year cycles. They bring it around like every 25, 30 years, sort of like the wait until people have forgotten, and then they bring it back, and they bring it back again. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, so we're about due some more satanic panic then, is that what you're saying?
Well, that was the most recent one in living memory, but before that, it's gone on, and it's been on hyperdrive for the last 200 years in particular.
You think they'll like what they'll do is when a lot of people start connecting the dots and go, hang on, there is devilry afoot here, and they'll just start like saying everything is of the devil, including like things like Pokemon, and so
look, Zechariah Sitchin was at that thing with that owl statue you were talking about the other.
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
So Zechariah Sitchin, one of them ones who like faked a translation of cuneiform, hangs out with a bunch of fucking neocons LARPing as ancient Canaanite occultists. It's fake occultism at its height, but what is real? Like currently getting girls,
You
their
said
rats out for
Zachariah
it.
Sitchin. Is that the guy who wrote the Gulag Archipelago?
No, he went Charity of the Gods. He wrote that.
No,
Oh, that's
No, Charity of the Gods was Van Daniken.
Was it? Okay.
Anyway, a bunch of like Americans, like talking about Moloch, whether it's Clinton or whoever. It's like they're trying to find a meaning in some ridiculous. It's like Masons who don't know what the symbology is. Like Freemasons, you could be like I knew one, a Scottish girl, and her dad was one, And it's just like they don't really know what it all is. They just like think they're special with their wee book under their drawer, Like I got my manual here.
That reminds me of that tunnel opening in Switzerland where they had that like satanic
Gothenburg
parade.
tunnel thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the Swiss people are really weird. I mean, some people say that the first Jewish country wasn't Israel; it was Switzerland, and I'm starting to
You
think.
listen to Paranormies again, you fucking idiot! You need to stop.
Yeah, the plagiarism.
You need to stop listening to Paranormies, Hobbit. We need to have an intervention.
But I like the
Paranormies?
tranny mania they have.
One of them acting like he knows about the Nephilim. He can't even name which of the different 3 books of Enoch for a starter. They all, I know you like Flat Earth lately, Hobbit, but really, like the shit they go on about, every single fucking actress and singer is trans. Like they've gone off the deep end. Like you have to admit.
Yeah, they have a bit. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking.
Yeah, but the thing is, they've been doing it. They've been doing it for twice as long as we have. They've run out of shit to talk about, haven't they?
They don't do anything seriously. None of it. Like if we do another Bigfoot one, it'll be serious. Have they done one that's serious? Have they done anything that's serious? It's all dog botanies. Like they did this one about the Nephilim and clowns, right? I listened to it. And they're trying to say that our fear of clowns is related to seeing the teeth of the Nephilim that were like big and scary, teethy, kind of like the way they're drawn in this anime Attack on Titan and all this sort of stuff, right? But the most realistic thing of that is actually going to be a big blocky 2 Sasquatch, and that we're afraid of big primates that bare their teeth when they want to be threatening, right? So, like, if we do have like an ancestral, like, thing about a big grinny Cheshire cat smile.
Is that why Stewie Jacks and Tony Blair are threatening? Because I always thought Tony Blair.
Did an episode saying that our fear of clowns is because clowns are what the Nephilim look like. It's just like, come
the fear of clowns is because you can't make out people's features properly. It's like a basic fucking human emotion, isn't it? The fear of clowns, but it's in some people it's turned into an irrational fear, isn't it?
Well, they deconstructed it about the smile, specifically with the teeth grinning, like a lot of teeth grinning.
John Wayne Gacy, the fear of clowns.
They talked about him as well. They brought up him and some band that had his art as their cover and all this other fucking shit. It's like
Johnny Depp bought one of his paintings, didn't he?
But one of the best films of the 80s was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That was awesome.
Anyway, Albert, I was just joking with you, mate.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind. Got another shrimp on the Barbie.
Oh, we don't say shrimps, we say prawns, you dumb fuck.
I know, that's why I said shrimp.
Yeah.
According to the rest, I'm like, why can't I even go back if I tried to? They're busy having, like, Ed 209s walking around the streets and shit.
Oh yeah. No, there was a story which made my blood boil about that. About the dog. So I don't want to repeat it. It's horrible.
Yeah, well, it's like no one knows. People don't know here. And then again, people don't even know what Afghanistan was even about, this young generation, so you can't expect them to know what's going on there.
That's the thing. A lot of them are cheering the Taliban on. I'm just thinking, hang on, they blew up the statues of Buddha. I mean, yeah, okay, they've done a few funny memes, but they're still arseholes.
I have zero tolerance for any kebab praise whatsoever. I had fallen out with Wignats over this recently.
It's well, you know the root of it is Ceviche Devi. So people, Hitler likes Ceviche Devi, therefore Muslims are cool, aren't they?
The thing Woods and Spencer ripped off was that Evola compared jihad to Valhalla. Yeah, and they went on with this sort of like warrior ethos similarities in it, and that's another thing pissed me about Paranormies. Robert Sefra is not a guy. He's like, they're going on about this Robert Sefra all the time. He told all his fans to report me on Twitter. He said, "Hey guys, everyone report this account." What a fucking cock jockey.
Really, Sepha?
Yeah. Yeah. He said to all his fans report me because I said something about how I am like do something cryptically about them ones, and he's like, this account was trying to get me in trouble. Everyone report him. He's a big fucking lady's blouse. It's like,
Robert Sepha is very
he's having a lot of autisms on Twitter lately.
He's very ban happy, as is Alt Skull. Yeah. So
well, I'm gonna wrap this stream up now because we're not talking about paranormal stuff anymore. Night all. Stay spooky.
Yeah.